Andrew Garfield, the man that you are. Oh my god. I'm about to crash out. I can't describe the scene right now. Oh my god. If any movie or TV show can make me out of all people cry, I gotta give it a 10 out of 10. I'm sorry. Once the tears started rolling, then the end credits rolled. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? You're gonna do that to me and then end the film? Are you kidding me? But hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm here to talk about We Live in a Time, the movie featuring Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh, okay? I was lucky enough to watch this movie at an early screening. Oh my gosh, my movie! That's what I'm gonna go watch, y'all. I'm sorry, but something about Andrew Garfield, I do love that British man. I didn't know what I was getting into when I started this movie, okay? And boy was I in for a surprise, because it was the most heartwarming and endearing and like heartwarming rom-com I have seen in a very long time. The first half of this video, I'm gonna try to be spoiler free. So if you haven't watched it, it's out right now. Go ahead and check it out. I promise you, you will not regret it. This is a fantastic movie. And then the second half of this video, I will be diving into the movie a little bit, so there will be spoilers, but you've been warned, okay? This movie is about Tobias, played by Andrew Garfield, and Almut, played by Florence Pugh. And this movie is basically about strangers to lovers. And if you like that show, this is for you. The movie is called We Live in a Time, and that's what the movie is. It goes through the timeline of their relationship from beginning to end, and it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. As far as a rom-com goes, this checks all of the boxes and then some, because one thing about this movie, it's not just gonna be your throwaway type of rom-com movie that's gonna go to Lifetime in the next 2 months, you know what I'm saying? When you have a movie like this with a star-studded cast, Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. First of all, Florence Pugh, phenomenal actress, And then Andrew Garfield, he can have chemistry with a brick wall. He does this thing with his eyes where it's like he's telling you so much just by the little subtle nuances of how his eyes are flickering and moving and blinking, and it's really crazy to watch on a gigantic IMAX screen. So you take both of those actors together, and what do you get? You get something so emotional, you get something so hilarious, something so real and authentic feeling. I don't know how much I can express how good the acting was. Genuinely, when I tell you guys, never in my life has a rom-com made me cry. That's saying something. That's literally saying something. I don't know about you, but that's saying something for me, okay? Because I barely even cry where, you know, it's like made to make you cry. But in this movie, literally in the end too, once the tears started rolling, then the end credits rolled. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? You're gonna do that to me and then end the film? Are you kidding me? But Tobias works for like a cereal company or whatever, and Almut is a chef. The circumstances of their meeting is quite hilarious. This isn't a spoiler because it's literally in the trailer. Tobias is in the middle of signing his divorce papers. As he's crossing the street, what happens? He gets run over. Who runs him over? She does. So they kind of have like this hilarious little meet cute in the middle of the emergency room. That's how the story starts. It goes from their meeting to them trying to date, get to know each other. He has his own goals, she has her own goals, them kind of getting together. And then it explores how a relationship can survive when one partner gets a kind of a life-threatening medical diagnosis while all still trying to make every day-to-day life work, and then bring kids up in the mix. Them even trying to get pregnant is a whole journey in and of itself. It's just marking off chapters that, you know, you share life with one another. It's just so beautiful. For the themes and kind of plot points this movie hits, I feel like it'll be really easy to have it take like a sadder tone, but this movie does a really good job of balancing the humor and the lightness of it and the serious moments of the film. I didn't expect that going into the movie. I thought this movie was going to be a lot different than it was, but I still really enjoyed what the movie gave us. One thing about this movie that I genuinely love so much is that it's not told in a linear timeline. So we're jumping back and forth from the past to the future to the present, just kind of learning bits and pieces here and there and adding the puzzles in as the movie goes along. So if you're into that, like me, I don't know why I like that so much. There's something more fulfilling about a story not being told in chronological order, because I mean, you already see what goes down in the future. This is not a spoiler as well, but she does come down with a life-threatening diagnosis, and we see that in like the first 10 minutes of the film. We're like, whoa, what's going on? But still it jumps back to the past, and all you're thinking is, oh my gosh, how did I end up from point A to point B? You're still wondering what's gonna happen near the end of the movie. So that's basically all I can say for a spoiler-free rundown. Now, if you watched the movie with me and we're gonna get into the nitty-gritty review, welcome to this section of the video. Now, they start dating, they hook it up, and he's like, wait a minute, I'm starting to really like you. Do you wanna have kids or something? Not like right now, but he's saying, okay, I'm kind of trying to take you seriously, so I gotta know these things. Do you want to have children? And she's like, I'm an independent woman, who knows? That's one thing I liked about Tobias's character, is because even though he's kind of the more traditional, like, domesticated partner, you could tell he just wants to be a dad so bad. And Alma, you know, she has a booming career going on. It's not that she didn't want kids, I just think it's that she wasn't really thinking like that so seriously so soon. But eventually she's like, you know what? I really like you too. So they got together for real. If I'm not mistaken, the next thing that happened in their timeline was the ovarian cancer diagnosis. And the doctor was basically like, you have two options. You can either have 6 good months left of your life, or go through months of grueling treatments that you know, it's like 50-50. It could work, it cannot work. And Alma, and I already knew that from the beginning, she's like the type of person, her initial choice, I'm pretty sure, was to just not do the treatment at all and just enjoy the few good months left that she had with her man. But Tobias is like, I kind of want you to try to see if we could have, you know, a longer future together. And, you know, I will say one thing during that diagnosis thing was, for one, Tobias in his notebook. Tobias in his notebook has my heart. Get you a man who keeps a little notebook and comes to your doctor's appointments and writes down your contraction times, and it's just on his P's and Q's with his note taking, because the man that takes notes is a man that cares about you. Don't forget that. The diagnosis scene was very sad to watch in a sense, but also there was no melodrama around it. That's one thing I like about the movie. The tone throughout the movie was very steady, very constant. It almost felt like a documentary. I think that's the best way I can describe it. And I love that feeling because it didn't force you to feel any certain emotions and anywhere during the movie. And I think that's what made near the end, the raw emotions so much stronger, is because you're kind of just in the POV of them. You feel like you're in the relationship. You feel like those are your partners, you know what I'm saying? After they had some talks, you know, they had some heart-to-hearts, and Tobias was basically like, let's not throw it all out the window right now. Let's just consider getting treatment. So that's what she did. This is while she was still being a full-time chef. Head chef, yes, chef. Mind you, if I'm getting the timeline wrong, do not blame me, okay? I watched this movie over 2 weeks ago, and the movie's already not in a straight timeline, so if I'm getting the plot points jumbled up, do not come at me. Please don't come at me. But anyways, she was cleared, right? And then she was in remission, so the cancer was gone, and then they started trying for a baby. Oh my gosh, this trying for a baby sequence, I feel like all rom-coms should have a trying for a baby should have a trying for a baby trope in it. It was just so real and authentic to watch them like keep taking the pregnancy test over and over and over again, and having Tobias in the corner with his little timer. Like, oh my gosh, I'm telling you, man of the year, husband of the year, boyfriend of the year, dad of the year. That's who Tobias is. Honestly, in my delusional mind, I like to think that's what Andrew Garfield is as well. Who knows? He was playing the heck out of that role. It was confirmed finally that she got pregnant. This movie adds humor in the most perfect of moments, because tell me why. She's feeling the contractions come on, right? She's basically being like, this baby's about to come out, okay? He's like, okay, get in the car. They get in the car, and they're sandwiched between one car in front of them and one car behind them, parked literally kissing bumper to bumper. And it's like...
I'm fine to walk, honestly. This is ridiculous.
This movie is just too much at times. Alma's, because, you know, she's like, this baby's coming out, I gotta keep it moving. What does she do? She steps out the car in the middle of traffic and goes into the gas station. Because what else would you do when you're pregnant, about to give birth? She gets trapped in a gas station bathroom because, of course, why not? The long story short, she has to give birth in the gas station bathroom with the gas station attendants helping them. And I think this is just a good representation of camaraderie, a good representation of helping thy neighbor, you know? These are strangers helping them give birth. At this point, that's their goddaughter. She gives birth. I just gotta say again, masterclass actor from Florence Pugh, but all good things must come to an end. So what happens next? Her cancer comes back. She does try to do the treatments again, but then she gets an opportunity to join this culinary cooking competition, an international thing. I'm thinking like it's probably the Olympics of the culinary world. Now this is like the final major plot point in the movie. She's doing this behind Tobias's back because she knows that Tobias would tell her, you need to be taking it easy, okay? So she already knew that he would oppose to her joining the competition. But I feel like in this point in the movie, it's more than just her being a independent working woman who just wants to have something to her name. And it becomes very clear because eventually when Tobias does find out that she's in this freaking competition, and they really get into it. I'm like, I've never seen Tobias. I mean, Tobias, like, he doesn't really get angry, but he just gets very emotional and very passionate because obviously he cares about her. And also, coincidentally at the same time, they're supposed to have their wedding. I forgot about this completely. They're supposed to have their wedding basically at the same exact date and time as the final round of this cooking competition. And so he finds out he's not livid, but he's just very hurt and also extremely confused. He cannot wrap his mind around why she would be doing this cooking competition instead of, one, not doing it and resting, and two, prioritizing planning their wedding. We're wondering like, why is she prioritizing these things over everything else going on in her life? And she's basically like, I don't want to leave this world and not have my daughter remember me for anything. Because mind you, their kid is young. She's doing all this so she could be like, I want my daughter to know me for doing something, to remember me for doing something. When she thinks of mom, she'll remember, oh yeah, my mom did that. And when she says that, I'm like, damn. You sound like you know you're not gonna make it. Like, why are we talking like this? You sound like you're not gonna make it. I'm gonna take it a little bit deeper because I feel like this is our first instance of foreshadowing that she wasn't gonna make it. In hindsight, now looking back, I think it was foreshadowing. This is one thing I think is just so beautiful about the characters as well in their relationship. Tobias, you have to take a step back and realize what she is going through is not what he is going through, obviously. No matter how much or how hard you can try to put yourself in your partner's shoes, especially in this instance of her going through cancer and her trying to have some type of legacy to leave behind, something to leave behind to show for herself, it will never compare to actually being in it and living in that body. And I think a movie like this can raise a really good question. If someone I know or if my partner is going through this life-threatening medical diagnosis, do I kind of have a right to impose, or do I have a right to say, you're gonna go through the chemo just so we can hopefully get the chance to live longer years together? Or is it more fair to just be like, if the person who is actually going through it and living in it, is it more fair to just have them have that right and have that say in whether they do or don't want to continue on with that? You know what I'm saying? And me personally, just in my personal opinion, I also can see that point of view of wanting someone to just I don't like to use the word fight because that assumes that the opposite is giving up, and I don't like that type of framing around something as extreme as this, the cancer. But I can see the partner's POV of wanting her to do it for the family and for him and for herself. But I can also see her POV in probably not wanting to go through months of treatment and feeling like crap just to maybe get some more years out of it. And so I think in this instance, in my opinion, I am on the side of just the person with a diagnosis doing whatever in their mind is up to them and good for them and what they do or don't want to put their body through. So yeah, and at the end she still technically did fight to go through the culinary competition thing. She did participate, and this is the second instance of foreshadowing because when she was placing the little garnishes and her hand was getting shaky, and then she let her sous chef take over, and then she just took a step back. I'm like, oh my gosh. Obviously in the moment I'm not thinking of this, but in hindsight I'm like, oh my gosh, that's foreshadowing again. She's literally passing the torch to her sous chef. The fact that she didn't even want to know where they came first, second, third, or fourth, whatever, she just took off her chef's hat. She went in the stands, took her baby, took her man, and said, let's go. Do not make me cry again. Please don't make me cry again. Please don't make me cry again. It's just such a beautiful story because she didn't need to know whether she came out first, second, or third. You know what I'm saying? All she needed to do was go through with the competition and finish it strong to know that, yeah, that's good enough for me. To know that I was still able to do this no matter what condition I was in. And now I'm gonna have my daughter, I'm gonna leave something behind for my daughter so she's gonna know that, yeah, this is what her mom did do. You know what I'm saying? And in a sense, I feel like culinary can be a metaphor for family. I might be diving too deep into it. You see where I'm coming from. Anyways, this is the last scene of her figure skating, just going back to something from her childhood that used to bring her so much love and joy. You knew she wasn't gonna make it. And I feel like she knew she wasn't gonna make it as well. Tobias and the baby stood back watching her skate, and she went to the far end of the rink and just stood there. And then what we get a cut to the next scene. It's probably a time jump as well. But who is there? It's just Tobias and the daughter. It's just them two. And I'm like, okay, is Alma in the car or something? Is she gonna come out? No, she doesn't come out. This last scene is literally the scene that made me cry, because in the very beginning of the movie, like right when they started dating, she taught him the proper way to crack eggs, because of course she's a chef. She's gonna teach him the right technique. Flash forward to the end of the movie, what is Tobias doing? Teaching their daughter how to crack eggs. Don't make me cry again. And it's like, even now I'm like getting like, oh my gosh, I feel it coming, because even though it's such a small, minute thing, it doesn't even matter in the grand sense of the plot. That being the first thing that she taught Tobias in the kitchen, and now I'm just gonna assume that that's the first thing Tobias taught the daughter in the kitchen, and it's just like her memory will still go on. Like Andrew Garfield's acting in that scene was just so, I mean, it was just so subtle, and like you could feel how hurt he was. Like, I'm about to crash out. I can't describe the scene right now. Oh my God. You could just feel the grief emanating off of him. Even though he wasn't sad, he wasn't crying. It was just so quiet. And it was just a daughter learning how to crack some eggs. Andrew Garfield, the man that you are. Oh my gosh. We live in a time, who was the director? John Crowley or something like that? John Crowley. John Crowley, you had no right to make this movie so freaking good. I want to know what else he's made. Okay, I don't know anything else he's made. But John Crowley, you did your thing. He did his big one in this movie, okay? If you watch this movie as well, go ahead and comment down below like what you thought about it. I gotta rate it a 10 out of 10. I'm sorry, I do. If any movie or TV show can make me out of all people cry, I gotta give it a 10 out of 10. I'm sorry. Just one last thing about this movie. This movie is just the embodiment of love and dedication and strength, and so heartwarming and heartfelt. Like, that's the best way I can describe this movie. It's just so heartwarming, and I cannot wait till it goes to DVD, because I will buy the DVD and keep it forever, because oh my God. If you didn't watch this movie, go to the movie theater right now and buy a ticket. Literally go buy a ticket right now. What the heck? Yeah, that is it. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and if you liked it, go ahead and subscribe. Please subscribe. Literally, I got some new people on here, so hey. And yeah, that is it, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.